Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. I want to welcome you here to a joint webinar between Fanvil and NTSDirect, our distributor, serving all of basically USA, And what I want to do today is really outline a solution that we're bringing to the market that's really captured quite a bit of momentum. For those out there who have deployed telecommunications for a good while, there are many challenges that one faces because very often you've gone into old solutions where you have buildings that are totally wired for POTS and two-wire solutions, not only for telephones, but as you will see in our future slides, we issue a lot more other solutions that fit in many other areas that are only wired for two wires. And the great news is that we've put together a platform that allows people to really apply Ethernet or SIP-based technologies onto the actual endpoint, almost making the two-wire infrastructure invisible to the thing. And both, myself as well as in cooperation with Chris Turcott of NTS Direct will kind of bring you through and show you what types of solutions we're going to actually bring through. So while we're waiting, some things that I want to put in to note is that on the materials section of this webinar, I have actually uploaded a PDF file where you can actually take that PDF file and download it for your future reference. So you don't have to take any notes. I myself, as well as Chris, will stay behind in the end of this presentation to answer any questions that you may have. And with that said, we have quite a few things in store and probably a few prize giveaways, which we'll talk about. And with that said, let me go ahead and move on to the next slide. I want to just delay a little bit because as we're talking, many people are just signing on as we speak. And let's go ahead and get moving. So what we're going to do initially is to really give a quick overview of the Fanvil and NTS Direct introduction, really provide a solution overview, which really gives an overall idea of what kind of solutions we're bringing into marketplace, different highlights of the product application scenarios. And obviously, with that comes with a lot of accessories. And some of those people who have been working with wiring and wall infrastructures would know what we are. But the great news is we've been able to take this two-wire technology and take it a step further by being able to incorporate the CPE unit into the actual phone, which really simplifies the work of many of the integrators who install the solution out into the field. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about that moving forward. As a nice prize, what we're going to do here is we're going to have some giveaways. We're going to actually select three people who send in some details later on in this slide. We're going to give away two basically PN8s with the enclosed phones at the end. We're going to go through the slide set, and at the end, there'll be a slide that will have sort of three questions. So those three questions will kind of point to specific, or what I call some easy general questions about this solution, and coupled with a $150 Visa gift certificate card. And once you get that information, I ask you to go ahead and send an email to Chris Turcott, which will come on in just a minute. And his name and address, as well as my name and address, contact information will be in the chat window. Those two are already there. So if you went into your chat window, you could find his email as well as my email and the phone number. And you could just send the email replies directly to him, and we'll go ahead and select the winners moving forward. Anybody have any questions? Feel free to wait until the end, or you can end up putting it into the question box, and I will go through those question boxes as they go through and address those questions as we come along. So with that stated, I'll go ahead and pass the microphone on to Chris Turcott moving forward here.
Thanks, Tommy, and welcome to all of our listeners that took time out of their day today to check out what's going on here in the NTS Direct and Fanvil world. If you've not been familiar with NTS Direct, NTS Direct brings 20 plus years of experience in innovative distribution and fulfillment services. Our services have been tailored to meet the needs of today's transformative and fast-paced channel marketplace. As a leader in VoIP, networking, video conferencing, physical security, unified communications, collaboration, NTS Direct really enhances the traditional distribution model. As a qualified NTS Direct reseller, our partners enjoy competitive product discounts, flexible financing options, integrated API solutions, product-specific marketing collateral, and also real-time support. Our state-of-the-art facility boasts over 300,000 square feet of warehouse product and a fully staffed lab for provisioning services. We service the volume customizations of many products. We also enable services for telecom providers, internet providers, managed service providers, and value-added resellers, value-added distributors as well, sub-disties of all size. We value our relationships here and work hard to show that our customers have great value to us when it comes to providing all the tools you need to succeed. Tommy, we can go to the next one.
Yep.
So this is a list of all of the different services and types of support that we provide. As business transformation continues to evolve in the telecom industry, NTS Direct has committed ourselves to providing customers with an enhanced experience throughout the buying process. And that's important in what we do from day to day. Our staff is trained to connect and empathize with our customers' needs, as well as provide knowledgeable and resourceful solutions. This is accomplished by implementing value-added services such as reverse logistics, dedicated provisioning services, branding opportunities, device as a service, buyback programs, and more. The NTS staff really prides itself on its extensive knowledge built throughout the product certification process of all the leading brands such as Fanvil, serving as a strategic partner and a human-centric trusted advisor. We're not just pushing boxes over here. Our account managers have a very good understanding of what these solutions entail, how you're going to benefit from them, and they have a great opportunity to make a huge impact on your business going forward. So we can go on to the next one. Real quick, I wanted to touch on the Fanvil ITSP program, which is available through NTS Direct. This program specifically is designed for service providers and integrators who want to offer Fanvil's VoIP products as part of their telephony solution. This program typically includes various benefits for ITSPs such as volume pricing, technical support, and marketing resources aimed at helping you to incorporate Fanvil products into your service offerings seamlessly. At NTS Direct, as a master distributor of Fanvil, we do play a key role in helping ITSPs access these benefits. And I wanted to provide a quick breakdown of what the program offers through NTS Direct. So number one would be the volume discounts and pricing benefits. Now, ITSPs that partner with NTS Direct can get access to volume-based pricing for bulk purchases. This pricing is significantly less than what you're going to see online as a certified reseller or with any other distributors. We can go over certain requirements offline on how to get access to that pricing, but it is there for you to take advantage of. We also provide technical support and training. So NTS Direct offers technical training and support to all ITSPs in this program, ensuring that you do understand how to integrate and support Fanvil's devices. This might include hands-on training, troubleshooting guidance, and product certification courses. We also assist with marketing and co-branding opportunities. So Fanvil provides marketing materials, and NTSDirect can help ITSPs leverage these to promote your services. This can include co-branding materials, digital marketing resources, and access to Fanvil branding assets. Okay, so if you guys wanted to brand phones with your business name or your customer's business name, we can do that for you. So we can go over the different qualifications that one must have in order to have access to the ITSP program offline. But it's a phenomenal program. It's very competitive, and reach out to your account manager to get more details on this. Or you can reach out to the management team at sales@ntsdirect.com for more information. So with that, I'm actually going to pass it back to Tommy so he can cover this two-wire solution. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me at the end of this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate the intro. Just for those who haven't heard of Fanvil before in the past, there's always a select few out there. We are a hardware manufacturer that's based throughout Asia. We have factories based throughout China, as well as even factories based off of China as well in Vietnam. Some of you may end up taking a look at this. I myself, as well as many others, are included in what Fanvil calls their international staff, where I'm based here in the States, in addition to some of the other technical support, which I'll introduce you to as well. But in addition to Fanvil, we also have a sub-brand called Linkville, and Linkville really is sort of a sub-brand of Fanvil that really calls our, what we call our hybridized products that don't necessarily, that are concentrated more on the wireless spectrum. And when we say that, nearly all of our products are SIP based. So we have nothing analog. Everything here is really based on SIP. So, and all of our products here are basically endpoints where the UC technology touches the end person as well, and where they use them. Like NTS, we're also a 20 plus year program. We've been around for 22 plus years. Initially, we've been in this business for such a long time. Initially, we came out with manufacturing many times, often for many big manufacturers. Chances are, if you've been in the industry for a long time, it is very likely that you've actually touched one of our products moving forward. And we decided to come out later on in the years, and is growing quite big. In the center, really outlines some of um, uh, the allocation of resources that we have. We devote at least half of all of our income into R&D and personnel. And this is why one of our differentiating features is being able to expand beyond just telephones, but also provide many other security solutions, infrastructure solutions, which we'll talk about today, but also spend a lot of time in investing $1.1 million in really acoustic laboratory. And what this really does is really that people really expect the top-notch performance when it comes to putting UC applications out there. So we invest in labs, as you would see, is sort of the ghost background behind you, so that we make sure that the sound that you hear is above and beyond what your expectations are in deploying our solutions. To give an overall summary, which I'm not going to get into details, you can really divide our solutions into really four separate columns. One is really IP phones. IP phones, you could divide the subcategory into business phones, hospitality phones, wireless phones, in addition to phones that are even dedicated to the senior marketplace. So all of those things we've kind of put together and optimized it for those specific verticals. In addition to that, we also have intercom and broadcasting, because this has really gone big in terms of the education market, where we actually have intercoms indoor, outdoor, with and without cameras. In addition to providing the speaker system, we have a ceiling speaker as well as a wall mount speaker. And sometime in November timeframe, we're also going to introduce a horn speaker as well, so that this enables you to really provide a very, very value-based solution into the marketplace. Coupling all that is really what we call our console phone, which really ties all of these pieces into one, so that if you have a situation where you need one central console to really manage a whole network of items, we can go ahead and do that. Beyond that, we also have access control that can be divided in two categories. One indoor, which is based on our indoor stations, which allows people inside their office or their home residences to see whether or not, Amazon or Domino's Pizza is out the door. And you have outdoor ruggedized units that's with and without video, one buttons, much variety that's available for you to go ahead and take a look at, and all these are based on current standards, so that we can go ahead and take a look at that. And then obviously this side, our hybrid collaboration, we've actually put together a bunch of hybrid things ranging everywhere from conferencing units to video collaboration. The great news is that with our cloud management system, you can actually tie and manage all of these endpoints in really providing firmware updates and all that. And these are services that we provide free of charge to all of our partners out there, so that they can go ahead and actually home in on and update their endpoints from one central location. I could talk about a full hour just on this, but I want to concentrate more on the two wire solution, which is where this one is really headed. Again, another differentiating feature is our local support. Just like NTSDirect, we also have factory-based support as well. We have a gentleman by the name of Hector Zarita. You can give him his direct call as well as a direct email address. We're pretty responsive in terms of knowing that our partners sometimes are in the field and things don't necessarily happen. We actually have a live person that we can actually go ahead and provide support. I myself, Tommy Lee, am here, could also support you more on the commercial end as well. So if you have any questions relative to the product, solutions, or even consultation, how to put these things together, you can give myself a call as well. Now let's get into the meat of the product, and let's get into the solution overview moving forward. As you note, as I said earlier, very on in the presentation, most of the old infrastructures that are out there or need upgrading from POTS moving in over to IP, they're all really based on analog systems. And the great idea about these analog systems is that it was fantastic because all you required was really two wires that went out onto a two-wire POTS phone. Analog cameras had their wires, analog intercom. So what you end up having inside the wall structure is really companies that have an infrastructure in place to support these units. But as you move over into IP, you have to come across a real question saying, do you want to stay with the two wire, or do you really want to make a cable conversion, which many businesses do, but somehow due to economic limitations or even restrictions on upgrading the wires, they stay with two wires themselves. And then yet, how do you go ahead and deploy these latest UC infrastructure across that wire, because all of these things really impact the decision making. But if you decide to go ahead and stay with two wire, we end up having a solution that enables you to put a hybridized or perhaps an all two wire solution in your infrastructure moving forward. With that stated, obviously there are many different cables that it comes in. Obviously in a two-wired solution it comes in, but you could also have multi-wire solutions depending on what type of wiring you have in place. But especially even with POTS, all it really takes is really a two-wire solution that you can put these things together, because in a classic Cat5 or Cat6 solution, you have the network cable, which is the RJ45. Offices that are outfitted with IP going to each corner, no problem at all. But when you go into the SMB market, many of these infrastructures are built in, they're not necessarily equipped with this. So you have an opportunity to either upgrade wiring or to stay with two wire. And the good news is that Fanvil has a solution to really cater to both infrastructures, depending on what you do. Here is something I want to outline about our product that we're going to talk about a little bit more. Nearly every place is going to have internet access, and what you end up having with internet access is you're going to have a router and really a network switch. This is not meant to be a technical presentation, but this is really served as a high end. And what you end up having under this red line that's shown here is that this is really the two-wire solution, and where you have green is really where all the background Cat5 cables exist that connect to the router and the switch. And what you end up having is really this centerpiece, which is really our solution. What we've done is really created three different solutions in place. We have the PN1, which you can take a network solution, feed a PN1, which gives you the ability to go ahead and provide power as well as provide PoE over this cable for really a maximum distance of about 300 meters. In feet, that's close to about 950 feet or so in US terms. But given that type of length, you could come across pairing another PN1 on the other end with another connector that enables you to connect to one of our access control systems or what have you, any other IP or Cat5 based systems on the other end. So what you've done is really bypass the existing two-wire solution here to really yield out an IP solution on the other end. That's a great, most flexible unit. Now, for those who want to deploy phones, we also have a PN8 as well as a PN24. Why did we create this? Because most of our deployments do relate to phones, and what we did is we ended up replacing this PN1 and integrated the CPE unit into the actual phone itself. So what you end up having in both the X303 as well, we also created an H1, which is the hospitality phone, which I'll talk about later, is that you end up with a classic RJ11 jack in the back. This is the old classic old phone lines that you would find if you bought a home back in the 1970s and 80s. This is the line that everybody hooked their phones into in the kitchen, and you could just hook it in and it'll take advantage of the two-wire because all of the conversion has been integrated into phone, providing with a real clean endpoint so that it really doesn't complicate it. Now, the real good thing is that the switch and endpoints here are optimized to support both the H1 hospitality as well as the business phones. That's been optimized for it. And the reason why I state that is because each of these boxes have a maximum power capability as well as a maximum length capability. And depending on how you do, these phones are optimized for these switches so that if you want to deploy phones, I would highly recommend using our either business phones or the hospitality phones. But if you're looking to cut in something that's unique, that doesn't have this integrated endpoint, you can use our PN1 at the end and compare it with the PN1, which gives you the most flexibility in providing all types of solutions on the other side. That's really how it typically runs in the field so that it gives you a level of flexibility. Because I get lots of questions on, can I put this on the other end? And in reality, because power has been spec'd to do up to 300 meters or 950 feet, coupled with our phones, we know exactly how much power. And if you start putting in more devices that demand more power, it may take a little bit more from these switches. And that's what we recommend as the optimized solution when we go ahead and deploy these programs. This is another different way to really look at this as opposed to looking at side by side. You have PSTNs, which actually have two wire going all the way through, which is the original setup, coupled with the all Cat5 or Cat6 implementation. Because when you have all greens, it's basically easy. Nearly all of our solutions fit in an Ethernet environment. But when you upgrade to option 2, what you end up having is that you end up having a network switch putting together over POTS lines. And the real loss that you have just with converting things just into dial tone is that you're limited to really dial tone type of features, and then what you end up giving up is things like call parking, all the types of things that SIP IP phones really provide to the marketplace. Well, then you can go ahead and realize that using our PN24 switches, which gives you full Ethernet functionality across a two-wire solution moving forward. Here is just a matrix that gives you a little bit of a side-by-side comparison moving forward. I'm not going to go over these things in detail. For those who really signed on late, you can actually download a copy of this presentation when you go into the materials line, and you can download a copy of this. But it kind of gives you all these different options and why, the advantages and disadvantages of using our solution, where you have things like call forwarding, HD voice, call parking, all of these different things are available using our solution versus being stuck in an analog solution, just sticking with dial tone. That's really it in summary, and you can read all of these texts yourself, but that's what you end up getting with our bridge solution. Now going into the detail a little bit further on the solution of the products themselves. These are the PN8s and PN24s, and you can really look at all of these solutions here. This thing contains an input, which is really going to connect to one port of a 10100 or perhaps a GigE port switch that you have in the background that's going to really develop internet access to you. I get often asked questions on, what's the speed of all of these different ports? When you think about it, all of these ports you could look at as a 10100 port if you're assuming using one port, because what ends up feeding this switch is another switch in the back, which just pulls off of really one port. So it's really a division of your classic Ethernet port that's going to be subdivided to many other ports. And that's why we've really optimized these multiple switches, the 8 or the 24, to really deploy one of our phones that also provides PoE to the end as well. And this gives you kind of a good front and rear view of all of these ports put together. So you have the back end, the switches, as well as all the ports provided. And it really gives a great bridge into providing, phone access into all of these different offices across a two-wire solution. Coupling this is our PN1 solution. Now, this solution really comes two to a package. So when you buy a PN1, both of these come in one package along with its coupled power supply. And what you end up with is that really you end up with a bridge that enables you to power PoE across, 300 meters across a two-wire solution. And you can really couple the pairs where you have two wires that you can put into one side of the unit, goes across the solution, and on the other end, you end up with an Ethernet connection that with PoE that you can then power perhaps another brand of phone, another brand of Ethernet connection, or anything that wants to run over IP will be powered along with this connection coupled with this power supply. That's what you see on both ends of this solution that you see that's in front of you. When you look at it from this standpoint, it really gives you the option of really putting together this PN1, a two-wire converter, to occupy all of these different things that you can connect onto across a two-wire solution. And this really gives you a lot of flexibility in taking advantage of. And you can also offer this as a cost-saving solution because not every place is going to have the budget to provide wire solutions. And this will give you a great bridge to cross all those solutions to hook up all of these unique solutions that we can provide to the marketplace. A little bit more in our X301, 303 two-wire. This is our business endpoint. And what this really is a cost-effective solution where it provides really a basic business phone for 4 SIP lines, but also supporting all the high-end definition of G722 and Opus codecs so that you can provide a basic business phone on the other end. Obviously, these are all wall mountable and could support everything, but this has a direct connection into the PN8 and PN24 because it has an RJ11 jack that's in the back of the phone, giving you a quick and easy connection. That's on the business end. And in addition to that, we also have an H1 that's really geared for the hospitality environment. Why hospitality? Because as many of you have stayed in hospitality, it gives you the same level of flexibility, but here we provide not hospitals, hospitality with the ability of putting in their logo, their function keys, and everything like that over a hospitality environment so that they can have all the different functions as well. Some choose to even put a business phone in there, but either way, they can go ahead and pick that. And what's really key is that with that two-wire is that many people will deploy phones but have that two-wire only going to the front gate. You can use the PN1 to supplement this and so that you can actually access our access control systems and use that as a one-off to do that. So you can mix these systems together to really meet whatever project requirements that you have. Some of the application environments, obviously, in the business is that, as I mentioned earlier, you can use this network switch to hook into a bunch of PN1s, giving you really ultimate flexibility in being able to hook up any particular endpoint on the other side of the PN1 adapter. On one end, this is how you would do it across the two-wire, across the red. And then in a villa environment, you may want to put everything, that's a little different. You can hook this thing into an RJ45 connector into an indoor station where you can have a display on the inside, but use the PN1 to really have a front door access. This access control has facial recognition as well. We also provide this level of solution, into whatever access point that you may want to have supporting it. A nice key thing that we also use it is elevators. How in the world would want to put a Cat5 cable in elevators? Most elevators are all populated with two-wire. So you can actually put a PN1 in the main network closet and use the existing two-wire switch going up and down the elevator to put things like an intercom or use whatever advertising panel you may want to put so that you can upgrade the lift or the elevator to really accommodate whatever IP systems that you might have there. These are the real variant solutions that are out there, and we're going to go ahead and provide this and make them available to you. So what type of accessories that you have? Many people who have actually deployed our solutions onto a 66 block, where usually it's the rat nest full of the two-wire solutions, there are third-party cables out there that actually connect to the 66 block and have a whole school full of RJ11 jacks, which you could just plug into our switches, which provide you a quick, easy connection. This is one of many different ways that you can sort of cater to this, but if you had to populate the whole entire switch, this is the easiest way to do it, by taking advantage of one of the connectors that you have on the 66 block that populates most of the things moving forward. And that's really an outline of really the accessories that we have put in place. Now, for the last but not least, one of the slides that we have, if you're interested in evaluating that, I highly suggest you reach out to Chris Turcotte or anybody in the sales staff at NTSDirect, because we have an NFR program that you can go and reach out to. We're providing major discounts on all these different problems, all these different solution bundles, where we can pair a PN1 as well as an X303. In fact, for those who signed up late, we're actually giving away 2 of these products at the end, just by addressing the questions on the next slide. We'll also give away bundle 2, which is a 24 if you want to do this, or we can bundle a PN1 with any Fanvil IP device. That you could, all these things can kind of get put together so that you can go ahead and just really evaluate in your own lab, or if you want to go ahead and use this on your deployment to see how it works, you're more than free to kind of come in. And this is meant to be sort of a test platform to kind of test out and be familiar with it. We have test engineers on board to be able to help you through it if in case you have any questions, as well as NTS. They have technical staff that can bridge you through. Now, with that stated in mind with the NFR program on this device, let's get into some of the fun parts of this. This is the last slide that we have, which is a Q&A. And what I ask you to do is we have 3 questions that we'd like you to answer if possible. What is the Fanvil part number that can support the PoE to any SIP device? Again, you can download a copy of this presentation under the attachments or the materials download, and you can look up all the answers you want. What endpoints is optimized by the PN8 and PN21 switches? Those are the 2 endpoints that I described on the phones. And then really, what's the specified length of the 2-wire? Something, if you're in the ballpark, we'll go ahead and accept that because it's 300 meters or something like that within feet. It'll work. I just gave away one to you, but send your inquiries over to Chris Turcotte. His address and contact information is actually available in the chat box. If you open your chat box, you'll find both his contact and my contact, along with your, contact information, so that we know we can get back to you and provide those winners to either 2 PN8 as well as an endpoint connection, in addition to $150 Amazon card for your reference. Okay, so good luck to everybody. And what I'm going to do is stay behind to answer any questions that you might end up having for questions that you might have pertaining to this webinar. So I'll stay behind and I'll just go across the question box. Put your questions in the question box and I'll be more than happy to address those. I got a couple of questions already. Let me see. Where is the chat box? In your client, you'll be able to see in your client that you're using to watch this. You'll be able to see a bullet named chat, and you'll be able to do that. If not, you can actually look at the chart that you have on the side of you. Our contact is really presented right there for your reference. Okay, Chris's email is actually listed on your side, so that's what's being presented right now. How does Fanvil ensure optimal signal integrity for 2-wire solution? Well, in terms of solution, we've gone ahead and tested these wire across. In fact, the 300 meters came through with measurements that we've actually done to ensure optimal signal integrity. That's why when you pair up our endpoints, say if you decide to use the switches, you can pair up the H1 2-wire as well as this wire, so that basically it keeps the power consumption optimal for the switches. In terms of the PN1 selections, we've actually provided our own connections so that you can go ahead and connect any wire themselves moving forward. Can the PN1 connect to a PN8 instead of another PN1? Technically, it can, but however, you could connect a PN1. But one of the things that we don't recommend is that if you put a large PN1, it could demand far more than what that one port can deliver for that endpoint device. And that's why I'm trying to recommend the best stability in being able to pair up that PN1 to do it. Can it work? Yeah, I bet it can, but I'm not necessarily sure on what the power output and the speed output. The reason being is that once you put in all of those 8 ports or the 24 ports, signals vary depending on the length of the two-wire solution that you're putting into. And not only that, the PN8, I believe, may be rated up to like 90 or 900. Well, I'm not exactly sure, but it's rated up to a certain power rating. And for those that consume more, you may end up being taking more from that one port that's been allocated to it. So my best recommendation is for the most stable operation, you could run these PN8s and PN16 24s with the switch, and use the PN1 as sort of the bridge for those one-off type of power applications. Let's see. What are the key differences in bandwidth management and power efficiency? Well, in terms of the differences in bandwidth management, I mean, these are not managed switches. They're really basic switches that allow really to deploy. In the case of these switches here, they're really optimized for our endpoints here, and that's what we recommend. Can you put it? You could probably pair it up if you don't populate the full thing, but then again, we don't necessarily endorse that solution. If you want to run one-to-one, we highly suggest you pair up the 101s to that. And again, as I mentioned earlier, as you greatly lengthen the wire, that's where it sort of stretches the spec for all of the thing. And then that's where these switches are optimized for these particular endpoints that are designed for it. And we also optimize for these PN1 endpoints as well. And we recommend you designing this and working through your lab first before you go ahead and deploy throughout all of the solutions that you have at your system. What security protocols implement on a two-wire protocol? In terms of that, I mean, we're basically defining this over SIP. In terms of security over two-wire, that's a pretty good question. I might have to take that offline to see if there's any other protocol, because I do know that SIP supports TLS, which by itself is a security protocol. And does that actually run across the two-wire? That's a good question. Let me go ahead and confirm that. I'm pretty sure it does because it has to confer on both ends of the point. I know that there's no degradation in terms of having the SIP run through, but can anybody really tap off of this wire, off of a two-wire? And that's something that goes above me. But what I will do is that for that person who addressed it, I guess Aiden, just send me a follow-up email on that. And what I'll do is I can take that as an action to really follow up on that question. I'll log this question moving forward so that I'll make sure I'll get back to you on that. Let me see. Can a PN8 work with an 8 or a 21 PN1 device? Yeah, I've already answered that question. We recommend you using the PN1 and the 24 onto our phones. That's what we recommend. How does a two-wire solution integrate with VoIP QoS protocols? Um, I'm not sure on the QoS what the requirement is on the protocols. I do know that on a managed switch, it may manage the protocols there, but once it goes across two-wire, I'm not sure what the degradation is on the QoS, to be frank with you. I'm going to go ahead and address that. I will have to take this question off on the side. And if you could send me the same exact question, I can go ahead and take an action on it. I believe that I might get these questions in the background and hopefully address this later on after this call. What challenges exist in converting legacy analog to IP networks? Well, when you have the legacy analog systems, you're going to have to make sure that at least the existing two-wire system is good integrity. The typical gauge that we do is really those that really support the two-wire POTS lines before we actually upgrade them into supporting this. So that's really the minimum gauge requirements that we have in terms of two-wire requirements. In terms of the IP networks, there shouldn't be any question as long as a two-wire is solid going all the way through. Then it should be able to transport that, and we can bridge an Ethernet connection across the two. Last but not least, how does the Fanvil two-wire PoE switch manage power distribution over existing? Well, We manage power by two ways. If you use the PN1 actually comes with a power supply in the package itself. And that power supply will be able to provide power not only to one PN1, but that'll also transmit power through the two wire onto the Ethernet connection as well. Same thing goes with these ports, is that these ports provide a level of power, but it's also divided by what the switch can handle. And I can get into the level of details. I don't know what the power is off the top of my head, but that's why we optimize all the power outputs for basically the most stable input is for these phones. Because if you decide to mix both of these, then you might put something that's higher end, in terms of consuming more power than these phones, and that will all offset the specifications of these phones. And that's why we recommend what we do. So that's really the last of all I have that I want to say about this. I want to thank everybody for your time moving forward on this thing. And any questions, feel free to stay on. I'll be more than happy to stay on longer if you have any further questions. Chris, do you have anything you want to say from here, or? Okay. If not, then that's all I have. If you have any questions, feel free to email me directly. You can see my contact information, or you can give me a call. I'm actually based here on the West Coast, and feel free to call me, and I'll be more than happy to address you one on one. Outside of that, stay healthy, everybody, and wish you the best and stay healthy. Take care.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks everybody for joining.
Anytime. Bye bye, all.